guys.
Welcome back to our channel.
So today we're going to be talking about...
We're talking about sickle cell.
Yeah.
So if you've seen our channel before, some of our videos before, we have done this. Like we've done 2 or 3 or 4 videos on this. And man, that video has gone to the atmosphere and stratosphere.
It has reached Mars.
Listen, and like the people on Pluto are commenting some things that I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just make another video to just like clarify all things getting married as sickle cell carriers. And outside of this one.
Wait, you said that 3 videos ago. After this one, no more. So seriously, there have been a lot of really good comments in addition, right? Some comments from people with sickle cell and how, like, you know, on the one hand, they're glad we talked about it, but on the other hand, it's like, you know, there's a level to which they're like, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you know, they're in that situation.
Yeah, I think the main thing that they were trying to pass across is that they wanted to feel seen. Yeah. Like, we're still humans and we're here. They're like, hello, is it us you're talking about? So I'm just kind of acknowledging them and yeah, giving them that esteem that they deserve. So we love you guys. We love the sickle cell community. I support you guys in praying for you and rooting for you. I don't think low of you guys in any way, shape or form. I think really the essence of our videos is like we're trying to pass across that warning, like this is something, you know, extremely serious to be careful about. So that's really the heart of our videos. So
absolutely. Okay, so with that, we're going to talk about 10 things we wish we knew. 10 things we want you to know because we got married at 6. So with that, we're going to talk about 10 things we want you to know because we got married as sickle cell carriers. So what's number 1?
Number 1 is go and get tested right now. Whether you are single, whether you are married, go and get tested and know your genotype. And if you have been tested, go and get tested the second time. So
and if your mom or your dad told you you're this or that, go get tested a 5th time. Let's just say that a lot of mistakes were made in the medical field back in the days. And you know, it caused a lot of problems, not even just sickle cell, right? Some people, they diagnosed them with heart disease, but they had glaucoma in the eyes, and like from where to where, just say for example. So go get tested 2 times because there's been so many comments with people saying, oh, I thought I was this, but then I found out I was this, I thought I was this. So number 2. Quick intermission, guys. September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month.
And we want to take a moment to acknowledge the sickle cell warriors and the entire sickle cell community, caregivers, family members. So we talk a lot about the prevention of sickle cell, but there's so much more around the topic of sickle cell in itself, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of organizations working overtime to help prevent this disease, to help the lives of those that deal, the life of the sickle cell warriors a lot better, right? There are examples. One is Sickle Cell 101, another one is 6 cells, and we'll link all of them down in the comments below. Yeah,
September being, you know, Sickle Cell Awareness Month, this is a great time to give back and donate to these kind of organizations. If you also just want to hear firsthand from patients with sickle cell, that is a great way. Check out these organizations. They have podcasts and so many resources that can be helpful to you. So to our sickle cell friends, we love you guys so much. Okay, back to the video.
Number 2
is ask your partner about their genotype. And I say partner in quote, but literally once you meet someone, if you are a sickle cell carrier or you have sickle cell yourself, one of the first questions you should be asking someone that you potentially are going to date is, what is your genotype? And if they have not gotten tested, you tell them, hey, go get tested so we can know whether or not there's root
in
this path.
I feel like it's kind of a standard in the Nigerian community that everybody tells you, you need to, that's the first thing you need to know. 3, if after you've gotten tested and both of you know your genotype and you decide, you know what, I still want to be with this person, but know your options, right? Know what the options are. Know if you can afford them, know if you can deal with them, know if it's realistic within the country you're living in, because, you know, you don't want to be in a situation where you decide, okay, I'm going to go with this person and I'm going to be praying to God, and all of a sudden your question's like, oh wait, what are we going to do now, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
That brings us to number 4. Okay.
Yes.
Number 4 is double up. Double up on protection, double up on blockages and everything, like anything to prevent accidents from happening, right? You're doing the do, and all of a sudden a kid decides to show up, right? You don't want to be in that situation where all of a sudden now you're worried that, wait, will the kid have the disease? Will they not have the disease? Can I go and do a test? Like, it's just a whole lot of headache. Yeah. So if you're not yet ready for kids, protect yourself.
Yes. Protect yourself, and not with the reason he said double up is no one, and I mentioned it in our videos. Please go watch them for context. There's a lot of context in there, okay? No one form of contraception, not contracept.
I don't know, it's contraception. Safety.
No one form of, I think it's contraceptive.
Yeah.
Okay. No one form of contraceptive is 100% guaranteed. So that's why he said double up, okay? You're not like any other couple that is AAAA that can just be like, oh, a child appeared and that's fine. You can figure out the finances. No. There's a lot, at stake here. So use more than one form of protection. The pills are not guaranteed. The IUD, some babies be coming out holding it in their hands. So, whatever you're doing, add another layer of protection on top of that.
Yeah, I did. Okay, no fun.
Gotten messages like, I got married, we didn't know our genotype until after we got married. Some people are in this situation and you're like, what are my options? Here are your options, okay? So number 5 thing that we want you to know is that having no kids is okay and is a valid option. So you might decide.
First of all, in our community, your father had a kid. You will have it. I'm just kidding. But no, on a serious note, right? Not everybody wants kids. So having no kids is a valid option if you don't want it. And then if you do want kids, but you're like, you don't want to go through that process, or there's the next option, adoption, right? There are millions and millions of kids that are desperately waiting for a family to bring them home and hug them, right? You can be that person, right?
And there are people who have done this. I wish we have that story to tell.
I feel like we should go get this story. They're really great.
There are people, there's so many people who have adopted kids. We have friends in our church who have adopted kids, and it's just like, it's really, I don't know any other form of love.
Beautiful.
It's such a beautiful thing. So don't X that option out on it. Number 6 thing that we want you to know is kind of sort of similar to what Shay talked about, that, if you decide that you don't want any kids, what do? Please go and tie your tubes or get a vasectomy. I know the Nigerian aunties and uncles are about to crucify me. But this is a serious matter that we're talking about. If you're truly serious about, okay, I've decided, me and my husband, or my husband and my wife, everybody has decided that we don't want to have any children, then go do the do.
It can do the own process. Just takes it down. Go do it at all.
Oh Lord.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So go do what you got.
Now, if you decide you want kids, what can you do?
Yes. So if you decide you want kids and you both are sickle cell carriers, you can consider. I said, okay. You can consider an IVF and PGD procedure. What does this mean? Over to Dr. Shay.
Please, I'm not any doctor. You mean engineer. Okay, so IVF and PGD, essentially, they take out the eggs from the lady, they take out the sperm from the guy, they put them together outside of the body. Then after like a couple of weeks, they test it and see, does the embryo have the sickle cell trait? If it does, right, they don't implant that embryo into the woman, and if it doesn't,
sickle cell disease,
the disease, yes. But if it doesn't have the sickle cell disease, then they insert the embryo into the woman. So that's the process, right? It's a long process, it's a stressful process, an expensive process, and there are some ethical concerns around that. So know where you are and decide what you want to do.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about the ethics next, but one thing that a lot of people commented on in our previous videos is, hey, don't tell people in Nigeria that there's IVF and PGD. They cannot afford it. Hello, people in Nigeria know that there's Mercedes and Lamborghini and whatever. Does that mean that they can does that mean that everybody can afford it? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aware that it exists. Or just the day that I can now drive that car, what happened? Then I didn't know that car was there.
Please,
you know what I mean?
Can you buy me a Lamborghini?
Don't worry, soon, don't worry. So anyway, my point is just knowing what your options are and saying, okay, how much does this cost? Is there a medical center near me where I can go get this? Can I get insurance so that I'll be able to afford it? Also, this video is for everybody watching all across the world. So yeah, essentially, like, know that it exists and weigh your options as to whether or not you can afford it and whether or not it's accessible to you.
The next one is the big one, right? And it's really a very interesting one, right? It's the ethics of IVF, right? There are opinions that life begins at the point of conception, and then there are opinions that life begins when, you know, you actually give birth to the child. Regardless of what point you are, right? The fact is that when you do IVF, a lot of embryos are fertilized, and then embryos that are stored, but then you can only really give birth to one. So what happens to all the other embryos? We'll cover that in a minute. But then there's the ethics of it, right? Because, you know, one option people opt for is, well, at some point they discard the other embryos because they cannot have that many babies. Know where you are, know what your beliefs are, know what you're comfortable with, and make the choice, right? That's all I'll say.
I think part of the ethics that people mention in the comments is it even right to, as a Christian, to do an IVF procedure? That was what some people were saying, like, you're Christians, you should not be encouraging people to do IVF because it's like you're playing the role of God in creating a child. So there's two parts to the ethics. One is, should you even do an IVF procedure? And it's almost like you're forcing yourself to get married when really you shouldn't, and now you're just patching the thing to work.
The part about forcing yourself to get married, that one has nothing at all to do with playing the role of God. The part of, like, you know, doing the work, IVF, going, you know, fertilizing outside the body. I mean, there is a valid question, right? In the olden days, if you read the Bible, right, people prayed to God for healing and things like that. So do we need doctors if we can pray to God for healing? That's one way of thinking about it. I don't have an answer to that, and I'm not going to answer it even if I have an answer. The more important thing is, if there's a slippery slope, right, where you say, okay, for this I'm going to have pure faith, and then for this I'm going to rely on science. If we had gone with pure faith all throughout history, this YouTube, you'll not be watching it, just first of all. There'll be no internet. But on a serious note, right, think about it. There are areas where God has given us the ability to use science to prevent diseases. And then I also understand that there are areas where science tries to play the role of God. Come to terms with what your faith leads you to believe and leads you to be fine with, and make that decision.
Yeah, and a lot of times, to be honest, even though we use science for, in the case of the example that you gave for healing, it doesn't undermine your testimony. It doesn't, like, half of the people that come to church and say, oh, God healed me from cancer, does not mean that they didn't go see the doctor and the doctor did the chemo and God intervened or worked through the doctors to heal them. Or even half of the testimonies that they say, oh, we had quadruplets, I was barren for 10 years, we had between you and I, even though they never say we went to do IVF, in our church, we go to an American church, they will tell you in the testimony that, oh, we did an IVF procedure in, like, you know, sorry.
She got the accent well, guys. She got the accent well.
But, like, the Americans will tell you, but the Nigerians will. How many times do you ever hear that in an African church?
My wife suddenly puts
Suddenly! I'm not saying that God doesn't, of course, God can do that, and He does do it. Yeah. But sometimes it's through IVF as well. So,
I believe God has given humanity the ability to think, to create things, and to come up with solutions to important problems. Right now, once again, the question is, where is that gray line? I don't know that it's clear that this is a gray line or this is that gray line. You may need to read your Bible, you may need to pray, you may need to seek God's face, and you may need to say, God, what is it for me, right? Yeah. I think we can go into that, but it's a maybe another video.
I think ethics is a conviction thing. Like, you have to have that conviction to say, you know what, I think this is not for me. Like, I don't care what you guys say, and that's perfectly fine. If it's not for you, then it's either you don't marry someone who's a sickle cell carrier, or
you marry and you adopt.
You marry and you adopt, or you marry and don't have kids. So you consider your options and say, what is realistic for me as an individual? We're not forcing our thoughts or opinions on you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Point number 9 that we want you guys to know.
Me? Okay. So many people, they've heard all the things we've said, they take all the precautions, but then there are also some that say, you know what? We're going to have faith. God is a miracle working God. We're going to have faith. We're going to wing this. And they wing it, and for some it works. But for a lot of people, it's like, oh crap, we're pregnant with the child. And so the first thing they do is they go and test the baby in the womb somewhere between 13 weeks and 16 weeks. It's called a process called amniocentesis. And they discover, okay, what's the genotype of this baby? and they can discover, hey, it's sickle cell, and so crap, what do we do in this case? Do we want to bring a child that has sickle cell to life, right? This is a very big question, and the way I will answer this question is this. We've heard from people in the comments who have sickle cell, and they said, I'm very glad my parents did not abort me. I'm glad that even though I have sickle cell, I got the chance to experience the beauty of life. And I can manage this, and I even have my own family and my own kids. At the same time, we've heard from people in our comments that like, man, they really wish they'd never even experienced this. Like, they don't wish it upon their worst enemy. If they had a way to say it, they'll say that their parents should not even have had them. I can't tell you what perspective is right. I don't have sickle cell. I've never dealt with the issue. What I do know is that life is precious. What I do know is that if you're in that situation, right, it's something like we've given you 8 points to think about so that you don't get in that situation.
In there. That's the whole point. We don't want you to. And we even acted drama. Listen, we've tried for you people. We acted drama on this, exactly what she described. I'll link it somewhere. But we did a whole skit on it, and that was based on.
It was a video.
It was a video. Okay, sorry. It was like an actual video, and it was based on someone who watched our video, and she shared her story with us. So this is a true life story. Shared it with us, and then she said, I want you to share with other people so they can learn from me. So please go watch it. It's exactly on the topic that he just talked about.
Once again, the more important thing is, if you're watching this video and you're not yet at that point, there are 8 steps that can help you not get to that point.
Yes. So that's a difficult ethics conversation to have with yourself and your spouse. Like, do we want to abort our baby?
Yeah.
And to have with God, not even with yourself, your spouse, and with God.
As you're saying this though, people then ask you the same question that, well, if you can abort a baby, and if you don't want to abort a baby in the belly, but you want to abort an embryo that has not been put in the belly, what's the difference in that?
So that leads us to ethics of what happens to the unused embryos that are are they called embryos? The fertilized, the fertilized embryos.
Very good point.
That you don't implant into yourself. What happens to them? That's an ethics conversation. So your options, if you're going through IVF and PGD, your options are: 1, you could either thaw or discard them, which means you're getting rid of them, and that's an ethics conversation to have with yourself, your spouse, and with God. What exactly does that mean, and are you comfortable with that? The second option that you can do is you can just store them indefinitely, or you can decide maybe in 10 years that it would be nice to have another baby, and then it may still be viable then, who knows.
I think there was once an IVF that 30 years later the egg was implanted and the baby was born. Technically there's a question, how old is that baby?
And then the third option in terms of what you can do with your unused embryo, or I don't know what the term is that you could actually donate them. And I know most Nigerians, most Africans watching this would not want to do this, but I know people who have done it, who have been on the giving side, like they donated their embryos, and have also been on the receiving side, have received embryos that they were so ecstatic and glad to just be able to have a baby in that way. Again, it's not common amongst Africans. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying it's an option for you to consider.
Yeah, there are many people, once again, that want to have kids, and they, for different medical reasons, they just cannot. So it's an option.
Yeah, and even within that, it's so complicated. There are options. So within that, like, they can consider it like an adoption, where it can be an open adoption. You can actually be in the child's life. Again, we're in America, so we see these things. It's not it's not uncommon for us.
In other parts of the world,
I don't know how common it is there, but it's just kind of cool to know that those options exist if it's something that you're comfortable with anyway.
So we've given you 10 points.
We've given you 10 points and a bonus point, because I know some people were listening to this video but they were closing their ears like this. So a bonus point, in case you miss anything, one thing that we want you to take away from this is, yes, we got married as sickle cell carriers, but we want you to take precautions. We don't want you to have a sickle cell child. So whatever you can do to prevent it, whether that means not getting married to a sickle cell person, whether that means, going the route of no child, whatever you do, the end goal is we don't want your kids to have the sickle cell disease.
Yes, that's number one. The other end goal is we don't want you to say, well, sure, actually, that's fine.
You don't want to say, Mr. She ain't got married as sickle cell carriers. Let us go and get mad.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
You can say it.
Because, I mean, it's good. We're doing this, we're sharing our story, right?
Yeah.
But our story doesn't mean this is the example you have to follow. Our story is just our story, right?
Exactly.
It's just saying how we went through the process to make a decision.
I agree. Yeah, please, let's add that disclaimer there because, you don't do everything that you see other people doing. You weigh your options that we've given you and see, does this make sense for my situation, for where I live, for, just a bunch of things to consider. So, with that, with a few points of ours, I'll link everything. We've done a few videos on this, like we said. I'll link everything in the description box if this is a topic that, is relatable to you. Please share with others that may be in this situation.
Nice.
Thanks for watching. Someone said that we stopped dancing in our video, like at the end of our videos, but I just feel like this topic is just so delicate.
Don't worry.
This is not the dancing kind of
We'll
video.
dance in next week's video, okay?
All right. Thanks for watching,
All right,
guys.
bye, guys.
Bye.